Hello and welcome to our second day here at Y.I.T Yoga. Today we will talk about breath, breathing, and actually working on the mind, or the monkey mind as we like to refer to it as in yoga. So today we will take what we have learned from the last video and we will apply it to today. We will use the sitting technique that we learned, so finding the sit bones underneath the hips and sitting on the sit bones. One thing I didn't mention last time is if you are sitting on the floor, you can use a yoga block to sit on if you get too fatigued from sitting on your sit bones, or it's just uncomfortable sitting directly on your mat, or if you're using a blanket, you can use that too. Or you can even use it on the chair if the chair is too hard. I just recommend getting more yoga blocks or using books to compensate your feet with if you're going to use the yoga block to sit on the chair. Again, you can sit cross-legged if you want. Sitting on the yoga block, sitting cross-legged is a little bit easier than if you don't sit cross-legged enough. You might get a little bit of discomfort into the knees and the joints, maybe a little bit of discomfort in the feet, in the ankles from sitting for too long if you're not used to prolonged sitting. From here, we will use the yoga block to sit on just to demonstrate. For today, sitting on the yoga block can really relieve some of the stress in the back and the hips and the legs and the knees again. Just a little alteration to sitting on the mat or on the chair or on the blanket. Back onto the floor. So one of the key points to breathing is using the entire lung. Subconsciously breathing. We don't actually use the entire lung because it's part of the respiratory system, just naturally happens, and sometimes your natural breath rate isn't going to be a full lung inhale and exhale using the diaphragm and the lungs. So it's important from time to time to use the prana, which is your life force, which is breathing, to increase blood flow and circulation not only to the upper body but the lower extremities. So it's very crucial to breathe properly. So today we can start by breathing. You don't have to use the full lung if you don't want to, but I would encourage the use of the full lung, inhaling deeply, using the diaphragm and the lungs to fill up the lungs completely, and exhale fully, as deep as you can. A technique that can be used is counting while you're breathing. You can use a count of 3 for the inhale or a count of 4 for the exhale. Just make sure that your inhale is a little bit shorter than your exhale so that you allow a full exhalation of all the air in the lungs. So starting with that, we'll do 5 nice deep inhales and exhales just to kind of get the body ready, the mind kind of focused on the breath, and then using the full lung and diaphragm to breathe with 5 times. To start with, you can use your mouth to breathe through if you want, but traditionally yoga uses just the nose. A lot of the time it's just inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. Again, you can close the eyes if you want to. There's no limitation to yoga. Just go to your ability. can keep the eyes open if you want to. I recommend closing them. If you're going to keep the eyes open, try and find a drishti. It's also known as a focal point. So somewhere on the wall, on the floor, anywhere that's within straight eye shot. I don't want you kind of turning your head to look at something that's like a light socket or a window or a knot in some wood or anything really. Just make sure that you're sitting properly, that crown of the head's reaching to the sky, and we're sitting on the sit bones and breathing. Now when we start the breathing, you'll notice that my breaths might be deeper than yours or they might be shallower than yours. That's okay because not everybody has the same body makeup. My lungs are fairly large, so I take fairly deep inhales and exhales. You might have smaller lungs, or maybe you've never really used them, so you don't know the capacity of your lungs. So it's important to play around with this. Maybe try inhaling as deep as you can until you can't inhale anymore, and then hold it for a second or two, and then exhale all the way out. We'll do that eventually here, just to kind of help with distracting the mind. So before we get into slowing the mind down and starting to work with the mind and kind of trying to tame the mind and slow it down so that we can focus on a task that's at hand or a pain or stress that we want to get through, breathing is very effective to help kind of push past a blockade or something that's really holding you back. Mentally and physically, it can be very, very successful tool for your future. To start, we will do one deep inhale, filling the lungs to capacity, holding it for 1 to 2 seconds, exhaling fully, and then holding that for 1 to 2 seconds. Don't be afraid if your breath's not as deep as mine again. You might have smaller or larger lungs, so go to your capacity. If you need to wait at the or towards the end of the breath, that's fine. Don't stress out too much about it. So starting, you can close the eyes if you want to. If you're going to have the eyes open, find a focal point that you can look at and just focus on that. So nice deep inhale, inhaling fully. Fill up the lungs as much as you can. Hold it for a second or two. And then exhale out. Trying to use the nose for inhaling and exhaling. Exhale all the way out and hold. And inhale. Come back to your natural breath cycle. You can use the mouth again if you need to. I recommend using the nose. Again, sitting nice and tall, sitting on those sit bones if you can. If you need to come out, relax, slouch. You can support the back with the hands if you want to. You can uncross the legs and stretch them out. Always have to sit in a cross-legged position. It's good to sometimes move. You can spread the legs out wide-legged. You can cross one leg and have one leg out. You can have the legs facing forward. There's so much room for play here. Do what's comfortable for you. You can even lie down if sitting up is too much for you all at once. If you want to too, you could sit against a wall if you really want to work on core strength. or if you just really want to work on your sitting against the wall will actually help build a stronger core while allowing you to relax at the same time. A lot of people will use that technique where you sit against a wall for meditation. It's very effective for allowing the mind to relax. Now we'll come back to our seated cross-legged position or straight legs, whatever you're going to use. It's entirely up to you. We'll start to work on slowing the mind. Here we can get into a little more of different techniques using the breath. So here we can use the breath to distract the mind in the sense that we're going to count the inhale for 3 seconds, count the exhale for 4 seconds. You can increase that number if you feel like you have a larger lung capacity. You could go for 4 or 5 seconds. Just make that exhale 1 to 2 seconds longer than your inhale is going to be. Using the breath to distract the mind is very crucial to succeeding in stress distractions, physical distractions, literally any kind of distraction, a visual distraction or even an audible distraction. In everyday life, breathing techniques can help with that. If you are more of a visual person and not such a physical person, then you can use a visual distraction to kind of distract the mind from the current task or stress or struggle that you're dealing with. Those are 5 things that you could touch. Essentially, you want to go down. So 5 things you could touch. Using the senses, 4 things you could smell, 3 things that you could taste, 2 things that you can look at or visually see, 2 things that you could smell. It's using the senses. So, and then you want to go down from there. 4 things you could taste, 3 things you could touch, 2 things you can look at, and then just go down from there, trying to distract the mind until you get past that distraction, stress, pain, whatever it may be, the thing that you're struggling with. Use those distraction techniques. Another thing that we will gain from using the prana or this distraction breath technique is a flooding of oxygen to the body. So we're going to flood all the cells in our body with oxygen, and it should make you feel really great and just make you feel a little better. Proper oxygen flow will reduce stress and make you feel a little better hopefully at the end of the video once you've gone through some breathing techniques and practices. So using these breathing techniques, we can get past certain stresses or pains in our life. For me, it can be with my tendinitis, or it can be with dealing with my father, or any number of things, driving. There's so many things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that can either stress us out, cause us pain, or some type of struggle or suffering that we don't particularly like. Most of it's in our head, and using the distraction techniques is very crucial to pushing past or breaking through a wall or some kind of blockage that's in your life. The mind's a powerful thing, and if we can learn to harness its energy, there's literally nothing that we can't accomplish by just simply using our mind. It's very simple but very effective technique. Just like we had talked about in the first video, if the distraction techniques from breathing or with the senses don't work for you, you can always go back to your initial yoga goal and use that to kind of help you push past whatever you're struggling with, pain or stress or anything that you need some kind of motivation to push past, some kind of hump or hill that you're at, or kind of blockade, using that motivation or that goal that you set for yourself in the first video can often help you push past what you're struggling with or dealing with. This might not seem like a traditional yoga technique if you've been to any yoga class before that really focuses solely on the asana or the postures. It might not seem like a normal yoga style to you, but I assure you that any yogini, yogi, or guru that you talk to, conquering the mind is probably one of the most difficult parts of yoga. And if you can conquer the mind, there's literally nothing that you can't do in yoga. So focusing on the mind and conquering that monkey mind status that we have for our brains, you'll go super far with your goal in yoga and your practice of yoga from day-to-day use. Thank you for joining us today for the second day, and I just want you to keep in mind that even if you don't feel like practicing, it's good to sit and take the time for yourself. Even if you're still distracted, it's important to shut off the computer, shut off the TV, the cell phone, any kind of distraction that you've got going on in your immediate surrounding. It's good to turn off, and if something like you can't turn off, like maybe a refrigerator or a washing machine or something, try and use that sound to kind of help you draw yourself deeper into your personal consciousness, and that should help to progress in the self. And it's important to have that yin and yang. If you are on the phone or on the computer all the time, it's really important to counteract that time by taking time for yourself and shutting off the mind mentally, and learning to shut down and just take that time for you. Again, I thank you for coming out to Y.I.T Yoga for bettering yourself and just helping to better your life and other people's lives around you. Thank you for showing up. Namaste.